When Sicil and Sebastian arrived at the cafe, the cozy atmosphere and the slight queue provided them with a welcome moment of calm after the earlier tension. They stood side by side, lost in their own world, unaware of Ethan's presence in the corner. Ethan, who was there for a business meeting with one of his clients, didn't immediately notice them. It wasn't until his client, Dean, caught sight of Sebastian and Sicil that their presence became unavoidable. "Hey, look! Isn't that Sebastian and Sicil?" Dean said in a low voice, nodding subtly in their direction. Ethan's curiosity was instantly piqued. He leaned in slightly, his gaze following Dean's, and asked, "Do you know them?" Dean smiled knowingly, a glint of familiarity in his eyes as he watched the couple. Who doesn't? They were the perfect couple back in school, and honestly, it's obvious they're still crazy about each other. They're like inseparable. It's like they've always been magnetic, you know? I've never seen a bond like theirs. Ethan felt a flash of doubt, something not quite aligning with what he had believed about Sicil and Sebastian. "But Sicil's dating someone else now," he said, trying to assert his understanding. But his voice lacked the confidence he wished it had. Dean didn't miss a beat, his expression turning slightly amused. "Impossible," he said simply, a touch of certainty in his voice. "Look at the way they're standing together. There's no space between them, no distance at all. I don't know how you don't see it. Back in school, Sebastian was always so protective of Sicil. He'd make sure no other guy even got the chance to get close to her. He was like a shield. Ethan couldn't hide his growing intrigue." "And Sicil?" he asked, leaning in a little more, now truly captivated by Dean's story. Dean smirked, his eyes flickering with the memory. "She was just as protective, if not more," he said. "I've seen it. She would chase off any girl who even looked at Sebastian the wrong way. There was this one time at prom. Sicil somehow landed herself a job as a server just so she could make sure Sebastian didn't even think about dancing with anyone else. Trust me, their bond is legendary. And even if Sicil were to stray for a while, all Sebastian would have to do is call and she'd drop everything to come back to him. No questions asked. That's how strong their connection is." As they spoke, Ethan's attention was drawn back to the couple as another woman approached them. He watched confused as Sicil's hand instinctively found its way to Sebastian's waist, her arm wrapping around him in an almost protective gesture. There was no hesitation, no second thought. It was a move, a quiet claim, declaring her territory, marking Sebastian unavailable for anyone but her. Dean watched this moment with a knowing look, a satisfied nod. "See? I told you, she's completely devoted to him. That's not just a girlfriend and boyfriend thing, that's a lifetime bond. I don't believe for a second that she could ever be with anyone else. She's too deeply tied to him. She'll never let go of Sebastian, not in a million years." Ethan sat back, the weight of Dean's words sinking in. His mind spun with the implications, struggling to reconcile what he was hearing with the connection he thought he had with Sicil. The unease crept up his spine, and for the first time, doubt began to claw at him, filling the space where his certainty had once been. He had always believed his relationship with Sicil was something special, that maybe, just maybe, he had a chance with her. But now, in the face of what Dean had shared, the realization was dawning. Sicil and Sebastian were something far more enduring. Their bond wasn't just a love story, it was a force of nature. "Third wheel," Ethan muttered to himself, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. The connection he had once thought was his alone now felt like a mere afterthought in the shadow of the undeniable history and devotion between Sebastian and Sicil. They were something unbreakable, something that no amount of time or distance could truly pull apart. The image of Sicil's arm around Sebastian, staking her claim without even thinking about it, played over and over in his mind. It wasn't just a gesture of affection. It was a gesture of ownership, of loyalty, and of an unshakable bond. It was a silent promise that no one, not even Ethan, could alter. His stomach churned. He didn't want to accept that he had been fooling himself all along. Maybe he had never been more than a side note in their love story, a footnote in their history. It was just a matter of time before Sicil and Sebastian would inevitably find their way back to each other, no matter how far they drifted apart. But slowly his heart changed. He wasn't willing to give up just yet. Ethan leaned back in his chair, feeling a surge of emotion he hadn't expected. Dean's certainty, his belief that Sicil and Sebastian's love was untouchable, started to feel more like a challenge than a fact. Was it possible that Sebastian and Sicil were meant to be? Of course. But the more he thought about it, the more it became clear to him. Ethan wasn't willing to accept that this love story was already written. He wasn't ready to be a third wheel yet. Dean had made it sound so final, like Sicil would forever belong to Sebastian, no matter what. The image of Sicil instinctively wrapping her arm around Sebastian's waist, staking her claim without hesitation, still haunted him. But in that moment, Ethan realized something vital. Sicil was not just Sebastian's. She was his too. They too had a very deep connection, and she had the right to choose who she wanted to be with. His heart clenched as the thought settled in. If Sicil is truly mine, I will not let her go without a fight. There was no way he would just stand by and accept defeat. He knew deep down that he shared something with her, something that didn't feel temporary, something that has only grown with time. As Sicil and Sebastian stood in the cafe, waiting for their server to lead them to their table, the last traces of the earlier tension began to dissipate. The quiet hum of the cafe and the simple meal ahead allowed them to settle into a comfortable silence. They were a unit in that moment, together, connected, in their own world. But that world was suddenly interrupted when a familiar voice cut through the air. "Hey Sebastian, it's been ages!" Lily greeted with a warm smile, her tone full of genuine surprise and affection. Sicil's heart skipped a beat as her eyes flickered to the woman approaching them. Lily, with an easy smile, her eyes lighting up as she recognized Sebastian. The immediate rush of emotions hit Sicil fast and sharp. She had not expected this. Lily, Sebastian's old friend. A flurry of emotions rose within Sicil. Surprise, possessiveness, and a hint of insecurity. Instinctively, she drew a little closer to Sebastian, her fingers tightening on his waist, seeking comfort in his familiar presence. She couldn't help it. The moment Lily appeared, her protective instincts kicked in. Sebastian was thrilled to see his shy old friend and greeted Lily with old nostalgia. "Hey, Lily, long time no see." Turning his full attention to Sicil, Sebastian continued, his voice soft but warm. "Remember, Sicil?" he asked as he gently gestured toward her. Sicil's gaze flickered over to Lily, trying to hide the inner turmoil with a controlled smile. Her grip on Sebastian's waist tightened imperceptibly as if anchoring herself to him. "Hello, Lily. How have you been?" she asked politely, though there was a hint of something deeper, a subtle tension, a quiet wariness. She did not want to seem possessive, but she couldn't quite help the way the situation made her feel. Lily, completely unaware of the undercurrents between the two of them, offered a bright, warm smile in return. "I've been doing well. Thank you for asking," she said, her tone light and breezy. She glanced at Sebastian, her expression easygoing, and continued, "I'm actually just here to meet my fiancé. He is running a few minutes late." At those words, Sicil's felt immediate relief, sensing the subtle shift in Sicil's posture, how she instinctively drew closer to him. Sebastian's hand moved to her shoulder, offering a small, reassuring squeeze. It was a silent gesture, an acknowledgement of the quiet insecurities. Lily, meanwhile, obliviously continued, "Well, it was really good to see you both. I have to go now, though. My fiancé should be here soon," she said, smiling brightly before turning away. She excused herself, giving them both a polite wave. As she walked off, her easy confidence faded into the distance, leaving Sicil and Sebastian standing in the quiet aftermath of their brief encounter.